Podcast, a podcast offering discussions and tutorials on nerdy subjects for people who aren't necessarily nerdy themselves. With you today, myself, is your nudie teacher, George, and we're on location once again with Miss Anime, my sister-in-law, Amanda.
Hello.
So, I gave you a little bit of extra time to watch some anime with my nieces.
Yes.
And I tried to give you a bunch of stuff that was primarily good for my nieces because, again, if I want them to talk shop, I'm going to have to give them what they want.
Right.
Give them something they want. I can't give them what the typical girls like to watch, which is a lot of boy love stuff.
We're not there yet.
No.
We're a couple years away.
No. Let's not get them anywhere near them. If I could get them in the mecha anime, I'd love that.
What's mecha anime?
Giant robots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if I can get them into giant robots, which is totally my jam, but
well, Nina's into what is it? I'm totally blanking right now. Like all the fighting stuff anyway, so she may go for the robots. Like she's down.
There are good people that do robots. They're
Yeah.
very good people. Lots of great costumes for people in robots too.
For even better, she's obsessed with dressing up. So
okay, so what did you get to watch? Because again, I gave you way too many things, and I wasn't ever expecting you to watch all of them.
All of them. I watched all of them, George. No,
oh my goodness, you watched all of them.
No, I didn't. We watched a couple episodes of. Is it K-On! K-On! We watched a couple episodes of that. We watched, I need to look at the list because I just can't remember the names. Little Witch Academia. Mm-hmm. And then Glitter Force. Because that's one that they've seen before, so they were like, all game for that. Mm-hmm. And then we peeked at Sailor Moon.
Okay. Those are some good titles there.
Yeah.
So let's start with the obvious. Let's go with K-On!
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
It was interesting. So I don't know if do they like arrange it around age group, or is it just more or less like do they do it how we do it here in the States, where it's like, like Y7 or like PG means, pretty much up until 13 depending on language and things like that.
So there is a rating system much in the same way like we have here. Like we have our G, we have our PG, PG-13, R, and so forth.
Yeah.
They have a slightly different variation of it in Japan. But K-On! Is kind of meant for, was initially meant to be kind of for a elementary, middle school kind of crowd.
I feel like I got the middle school type vibe from it.
Yes.
They touched on a couple subjects where I don't know if the girls picked up on them, but I was just like, I may be a little bit too old for you guys to deal with, but they didn't come back with any questions, so I was like, cool. But Mia loves that show right now. Like, she's game for watching that thing every day.
Yeah. No, so K-On! In and of itself for the anime community is what is kind of the impetus for what we call a lot of what they call moe.
Yeah.
And moe is this distinctive sort of nature of very, very cute, very, very innocent.
Yep.
The most precious cinnamon roll you could possibly have sort of look.
Schoolgirl problems.
Well, not just necessarily schoolgirl problems. There's a lot of moe shows that don't deal with schoolgirl stuff, but there's a greater majority of it, and a lot of it's just, again, this is very much the slice of life genre playing itself out. There's the weird little inconsistencies, like we got to keep the club open.
And, exactly.
And did you make it to the Vacation Beach episode?
I don't know if we made it to Vacation Beach episode. I know we were, the one part that I distinctly remember watching was like, one of the characters, they're in like music club or band club or whatever.
So they're in what they call the light music club with heavy quotations, which is basically just a band at the end of the day.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
What it is.
But there was some teacher was training one of them to take on whatever part they were looking to fulfill.
UA.
And then the girl that she took out looked like she was like in a trance or something like that when she came back, and she could play the guitar like amazingly, but she could not sing.
She ruined her voice.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's probably episode 5 or 6, I want to say.
Yeah.
Because if memory serves me, the school teacher Sakura, or
I'm horrible with names on anything. So
trust me, it's not going to be the end of the world. I think it's Yamanaka. I think is her name. Yeah, it sounds about right. Mostly because I'm also looking at the wiki, so I'm cheating a little.
Yeah, you're good.
No, yeah. So it eventually gets later on that she was actually a part of the light music club at one point.
This girl that was playing the guitar?
No, the teacher.
Okay.
So the teacher was a member of the light music club at one point, and the guy that she was really in at the time said, "Oh, I really enjoy rock and roll." So she took that, instead of just going up to like 7, 8, 9, took that to like 15, and ended up going into like punk rock and all this heavy metal stuff.
Okay.
had all the face paints, like almost like Kiss level kind of quality.
Yeah.
And the guy that she liked eventually came up and told her, he was like, yeah, I said I like rock music, but like not that much.
Not that far into it.
And she shreds, and that's how she knows all the terminology and everything.
Okay,
but again,
okay.
But no, the beach episode I think comes around just a little bit before that in episode 4. The girls go to a beach house.
Yeah.
Because the entire beach episode is actually kind of funny because their pianist with the keyboard is a rich girl, and so they just happen to own a beach house, and they go there with the intention of practicing to get better, and they never actually do it. Oh. They end up just having a vacation.
Yeah.
But again, Kiana is very light and sweet.
Yeah.
Again, back to kind of the whole age demographic. Part of the problem is you've heard of a Brony before, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of Japanese animation, even though it might be meant for one group target audience, often finds a lot of cross culture sort of stuff. So you get a lot of people who are, you'll get a lot of people, as an example, who are very much fans of sports anime that are meant for a kind of a teenage boy demographic. A lot of girls end up liking that instead, even though it's not the original target audience.
Right.
And so in a lot of cases, a lot of older adults, myself included, enjoy K-On! Because it's light, it's sweet.
Yeah.
You know, it's not anything crazy. It's just what it is. It's just perfectly
something
fine.
to watch and just relax and,
Yeah, and again, it's also very much in that same vein of what we called a healing anime last time, where it was soft, sweet. It was just nice and gentle.
Yeah.
And it was perfectly fine. There's nothing crazy with it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Would you keep watching it if you had the option to?
K-On! Yeah, I'd watch that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Mia's really into that one too. So that one I've seen snippets of it too as I've been watching her watch it. Mm-hmm. It's funny, when we went to put it on, Nina was like, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch something else. Power Rangers finally came to me. That's what she's into right now. She's hardcore into Power Rangers. So that's why I'm like, the whole
she might be interested in the giant.
So yeah, that's why I was like, it would fit perfectly. But
another Japanese property as well.
There we go. Maybe you'll have to send me what to watch of those, and we can introduce her and see if she likes them.
We did a podcast on that, actually.
Oh.
Me and John did.
Yeah.
So, but we also did another show called Kamen Rider at the same time, which is kind of like the impetus for Power Rangers at one point.
Okay, yeah.
Very kind of similar. People dress up in costumes and stuff. Alrighty, so you also mentioned that you watched Little Witch Academia.
Yeah, which I felt like, for whatever reason, I enjoyed Little Witch Academia more. I thought it was cool. We didn't get super far into it. I think we watched at least the first, maybe the second. I was kind of like tuning in and out while I was folding laundry, but I thought that was a cool story. Like,
it's a very cute series, and I like the art direction in it in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
because it's done by a studio known as Studio Trigger, which is an offshoot of a very weird company they were originally known as Gainax.
Okay.
Gainax still exists. It made a lot of very trippy anime.
Yeah.
Trippy in the sense that, like, odd tones, interesting plot developments, and just kind of a gonzo sort of art aesthetic that makes you keep asking a lot of questions about it.
Yeah.
And Little Witch Academia is kind of the brainchild from the Studio Trigger that originally created it. I often hear it a lot of described as girls' school, but Harry Potter.
Agree. Yeah, totally got that feel.
That would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
What was interesting about this one here is that it was only ever available on Netflix. Oh. So typically, a lot of shows that are on Netflix originally start being on Crunchyroll first, and then get dubbed onto Netflix.
So it was still dubbed, though, right? It was dubbed, or was this just originally made for Netflix, is what you're saying?
It's not that it was originally made for Netflix, but that the second that it came out, or even before it came out, Netflix just went in and bought it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which is something that a lot of the companies like Amazon are doing a lot now. There's another traditional website company known as Funimation that does a lot of their own dubbing and stuff. They do a lot of... right now, what they do is they do a lot of dubbing for stuff that comes out hours after it came out in Japan.
Yeah.
And also in a lot of cases, when it comes out in Japan, they've already gotten the dub and they're able to release it right away because they got the script and were able to translate it accordingly. But Little Witch Academia was unique because while it was airing in Japan, it took almost about a year before it actually released here in America.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And part of the problem that ends up with that in an anime community is that all the hype disappears, which used to be a huge problem for anime in general, because you would have an anime come out in Japan, it was big on the internet, and then you would see it sort of licensed midway through its run, so you usually wouldn't see the remainder of it, and then it'd come out here in America a year and a half, 2 years later.
Yeah, and that's just too long to...
Yeah. Netflix is getting better about it. Take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I'd have to say, though, I like Netflix encoding for the subtitles more than I do Amazon's, because Amazon's suck. But that's just me. But no, I enjoyed Little Witch Academia. I like all the different characters.
I thought the characters were pretty cool. Like, they're so distinctly different. Whereas in, like, K-On!, I felt like it was kind of like a uniform character, but just switched from person to person. And they all had different personalities, but their looks are very similar.
Yes.
Whereas, like, in Little Witch Academia, like, and again, I'm horrible with names, but, like, the witch that doesn't have the powers, right? Mm-hmm. She looks completely different than the witches that she comes in contact with, who, like, make fun of her, and they're like, you'll never get there. And then the blonde witch, right? Is that the one?
Yeah, the bee.
Is she kind of like emo-ish? Like,
she's Draco Malfoy.
Okay, yeah, right. So she's like super emo looking,
so
and then
there's one that's Draco Malfoy. There's one that's
like the nerdy one. Yeah.
And then there's another one that's kind of got the hair kind of swooped over her face.
Yeah,
it's basically like goth, but like still a bit of a girl.
Yeah. So, like, I thought that was cool how all of them are very... And I liked the artwork and everything like that, and going through the portal and all that. That was all cool, too.
And I love... Yeah, the effects that they're able to generate with this, with a lot of the 3D effects that kind of go along with this, are very interesting and unique. And there's a lot of other companies that saw this and were like, oh, we could try to do that, too. Yeah. And a lot of them have, and have since done that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Little Witch Academia tremendously. The one thing I can't get past is just the English voices, because I heard it all in Japanese first time.
Okay, see, I haven't had trouble with it yet. I'm like, okay, like, this is cool. Like,
there's some shows that are like that. One of those for me was
you were saying that, I can't remember the name of it.
There was a show called Kaleido, which I highly always recommend Kaleido, because it's basically Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
But Japanese. All the characters have English names.
Yeah.
So, like, they're Mary and, like, Alex, and they have all these very traditional American names, so they're very easy to switch in and out. But you hear the voices, and I'm just like, no, stop it. It hurts so much. Make it stop.
I get that.
So K-On's so again, Little Witch Academia. You were calling it Academy.
I know. I kept saying Academy, and I'm like, every time I looked at it, I was like, it's not Academy. That's Academia.
Japanese, just chalk it up to Japanese.
Right.
What is an academia? Like,
same thing. Yeah. Same difference.
You watched Glitter Force.
Yeah, we've seen multiple Glitter Forces.
So this is a line of... So Mom and me, and I took Mom when we were in Kyoto in Japan to a place called the Toei Studio Park. Mm-hmm. It's a literal filming studio where they film a lot of the Toei shows at. Okay. Or shows that are done by Toei at the end of the day. These are a lot of period piece stuff. This could be samurai stuff from, from like the 3rd or 4th century all the way up to like the 14th or 15th century up to a certain level. Yeah. Or certainly even up to maybe even the 18th century. But beyond that, they also do Power Rangers and Kamen Rider there as well. Yeah. Along with a lot of other shows. They also generate a lot of anime that comes out of there. And Glitter Force in and of itself is based off of a series known as Pretty Cure. Yeah.
Is Sailor Moon based off the same thing?
Not quite, no. But they're all kind of aping Sailor Moon up to a certain extent.
Yeah, because that's what I felt. It's very similar to the Sailor Moon-ish
sort of thing, where there's a team and everybody's got kind of the sailor sort of uniform. And they do the, like, spin around
with the magic, and they've got their wands, and, like, it's, or something that makes them have their powers, whether it's a necklace or a wand or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. No, Sailor Moon basically was the blueprint for a lot of this, because keep in mind that even though Sailor Moon, for us in the States, didn't come out till about the mid-90s, so 95, 96, 97, give or take, somewhere around there. It came out in Japan about 3 or 4 years earlier before that, in 92, 93.
Okay.
It started as a Japanese comic back in the late 80s, so 88, 89.
Yeah.
Funny fact is that the writer for this actually married another Japanese manga creator as well, who makes a very violent manga.
Totally opposite, yeah.
Oh yeah, very. It wasn't the opposite, but I mean, like, the interesting sort of choices.
Yeah.
So Glitter Force is based off of Pretty Cure, and there are a lot of Pretty Cures.
Yes.
Pretty Cures have been basically. Keep in mind that once Japan kind of figures out what sells really well or what's really popular,
bombard you with it.
Well, I mean, like, keep in mind that Toei actually had the rights to Sailor Moon.
Okay.
And because they had the rights to Sailor Moon, they were basically saw what they did with this show and were like, we could keep making this, and it doesn't have to be Sailor Moon, and we could keep doing this.
Yeah.
Mom and me, when we were in Japan, when we were at the Toei Studio Park, got to again go inside of it, and they had a huge display.
Yeah.
Of all the various Pretty Cure statues of all the various characters that have ever been in these Pretty Cure
that's cool.
series.
Like, were they life size or were they just?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Let me see if I can pull up the picture.
So, like, was like Sailor Moon there and stuff, or was it like?
Well, again, Sailor Moon is.
Oh, this is different. Was like Glitter Forces were there, like the.
Yeah, these were all Pretty
that's
Cure
awesome.
characters.
The girls would lose their minds.
Let's see if I can pull it up relatively quickly here. But no, it was really cool. It was really cool on one hand because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I often forget what Toei does sometimes,
Yeah.
and so
No, the girls were. Last year, I think they watched every single Glitter Force. Like, the girls were hardcore Glitter Force for at least a year, so they were super into it. And I think they just trailed off because they watched all of it multiple times, but they thought that was an awesome show. And I didn't mind watching it with them either. Like, it wasn't, because there's some shows where I'm just like, I can't believe you guys are watching this again. Like, I can't do it.
So that happens. I will admit that happens quite a bit with some anime sometimes.
Yeah. Well, even with shows outside of the anime range, like, there's just sometimes where I'm like, just can't. Like, this shows no appeal to me. But Glitter Force, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, it definitely gave me the Sailor Moon vibe. And I think that's what I even said to them when they were watching Glitter Force, like, hardcore. I was like, have you guys seen Sailor Moon? Like, that's what, me and your uncle used to watch. Because my brother used to be into anime really hardcore. And he would do, like, all the anime drawings and everything, too. And I specifically remember learning about Sailor Moon from him when we were younger. And it would have been, if I was born in 88, it would have been, mid-90s that we were able to, like, do all that. Oh, wow. So those are, like the size of you?
Well, no. Well, again, I'm
tall,
distinctively
but,
bigger.
Yeah,
but they're all roughly about 4.5 to 5 feet tall.
That's super cool.
Oh yeah, no, and I think we took a picture with little Mia and little Nina at one point there as well. And so I will have to fish that picture and I will repost it on the website.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, again, they had all these little figurines of the girls there. Essentially,
that's super cool.
And keep in mind, like, that photo right there is showing a small bit of it. I think there were more when we were there.
Yeah.
Because it's been a series that's basically has a new season every year or so.
Yeah.
They're not overly dramatic, and probably about 20 to 25 of them at this point, I want to say, give or take.
That's pretty cool, though.
They did the same thing as well with the Power Rangers. They have a collection of every single Red Ranger that's ever been.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So in that case, Nina would love that.
Dude, I try to explain, and it's funny because I'm like, okay, but which Power Ranger were you watching? She's like, the Power Ranger with the red one. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
They're all
red ones, all of them.
It's one of the unique features. That one always has a Red Ranger.
Yeah,
it's always a Red
like
Ranger.
Asking her which Power, because they've watched the Dino one and the original one, and I don't know. I think there's like 8 to 10 different Power Ranger shows, and they've seen like all of them and every one of them, and they know what's happening. And I'm just like, but which one are you looking for? She's like, the one with the Red Ranger and the Yellow Ranger, and I'm like, dude, this is not working. Like,
so Power Rangers is an interesting philosophy on its own because it's got over 25 different seasons now. And in Japan, though, there's over 40 seasons of it.
Oh my god!
Because it started in the mid to mid to early 80s, give or take. Like, they did a couple seasons, and then they took a break and then started actually figuring out what it was. They have over 40 some odd seasons of it.
Well, that's great. Did you watch were you into Power Rangers? I know John was.
I had the robots. I distinctly was collecting the robots because I thought the robots were cool.
Yeah, so Logan and I were into the robots. My brother, I mean, not the robots, but the whole Power Ranger. And I remember being the Pink Ranger one year. Like, I was pink and he was the red or the green or something. And this year Nina was saying she wants to be the Pink Ranger. I was like, oh, that would be so cool.
Oh,
so
I know a convention that when they open back up, that they will die over either of my nieces being dressed up as anything.
Yeah,
like I can already see Mia being one of the K-On! Girls.
Yep, Nina would go nuts. Nina would have Mia's a little bit more like sheltered in those instances where she doesn't want to be center of attention, but like Nina, she'd rock it. Like oh,
absolutely, she
would love it.
And that's one of the cool things as well, is that if you that's not very common, at least here in the West, at least. They have younger children doing a lot of cosplay as well.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when you get it, it's literally the cutest, the most to die for things in the world.
Yeah, my best friend Angie has her two daughters, and they're hardcore into Star Wars and everything. And her husband makes prototypes and everything like that. And the costumes that he's made for them, he made them a full on.
One of them has been Rey, another one has been a couple of different...
but he made them a full suit, like made to size of
the stormtrooper.
The pink stormtrooper. But she was a pink stormtrooper with a purple visor, and then he has a full one. He made a full Iron Man costume and got it signed by Iron Man.
Oh no, yeah, no.
Matt is crazy.
He's very crazy.
He knows what he's doing. Yeah,
but he looks like he's having a lot of fun, which is part of the point. I mean, like we don't do this stuff just because we can. We do it because it's fun.
Exactly.
Because it's entertaining.
Yeah. No, we'll have to go though. We'll have to go, depending on what happens with work and stuff this year. We are hopefully freeing up weekends now instead.
Oh,
so
I will take. I will take
down to, but I want to experience it. Like,
I will.
I think it would be so cool.
The cool things you can do if you ever get a chance to do family stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Because those are a lot of fun.
Yep.
And I'll be more than happy to.
You got to convince the girls because they're not. They're Nina's game. Mia's not game. She's going to take some convincing to do a family thing.
Oh,
but
how unfortunate.
I know.
And then you also said you watched Sailor Moon.
Yeah. So I remember Sailor Moon from like way back when.
Mm-hmm.
We started one episode, didn't get all the way through it. But like I said, honestly, to me, it really reminded me like Glitter Force and Sailor Moon are like the same type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They just have their own worlds.
Yes, so, it's very distinctly different worlds at the end of the day for those two. And Sailor Moon has just got this very long treaded history at this point here.
Yeah.
They've had, what's interesting actually is that a lot of the original anime, or the original show on TV, is nothing like what the original comic was like at all.
Yeah, no, yeah. And that's the thing that would be what my brother brought up, because my brother was hardcore into comics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, he's like, no, you got to read the comic. Like, you got to read the comic and then watch the show, because like the comic's so much better.
I don't know if it's much better. I mean, there's a different story being told that eventually kind of gets told as well in the anime, but not coherently at any particular point.
Yeah.
After a certain point, the creators of the anime were very much of the, we're not going to let this go. We're going to keep
it going.
We're going to keep making as much of this as we can.
I feel like that's where they went with Pokemon.
Well, I think with Pokemon, I mean, Pokemon is such a weird staple at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so long-lasting and ongoing that, like, I don't think you could get rid of it unless you blasted it into a moon.
Right, but I feel like how much can they keep? Because they keep putting out new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm just watching, like, because what was the new movie that was put out this year? There was like some sort of Pokemon movie either on Netflix or Hulu.
Well, keep in mind, so here's an interesting thing that you may not know. They do a movie for every major TV show once a year. So every year, no
matter what, they just keep going.
Yeah. So every year they keep doing it every day, weekly episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And usually keep in mind that when they premiere in Japan, they've only maybe finished it anywhere from a week or 2 weeks ago to maybe an hour or two or so.
Okay.
Like from like when the animator finished doing all the drawings and when they finished putting it all together and producing it, and then they hand the tape off to the television studio and the television studio plays it.
Okay.
That's how last minute deadline some of that stuff is.
Okay.
Or sometimes it could be a week or two. Bigger productions will obviously be much bigger. We'll have more time. But again, Pokemon has had a movie every single year. Yeah. It's been out, and they just keep doing it alongside the regular production stuff. Yeah. Same was true of Naruto for a while, and then same thing with Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon had multiple movies that came out over its about 4-year run, if memory serves me correctly. And they just kept doing a new movie every single year because why wouldn't you do a movie for something?
Well, doesn't K-On! Have a movie also right now on Netflix?
K-On! Also has a movie.
Yeah, one, right? There's one on there?
Just the one.
Okay, because I remember going on there and being like, wait, there's a movie or a show? And Mia's like, no, the show. She said the show's better than the movie for whatever reason.
Well, because again, keep in mind, the movie is its own standalone project in a lot of cases.
Exactly.
And so in a lot of cases, in the movie, I think is them going to London or America.
So she just may not have enjoyed the storyline.
She may have just not enjoyed the storyline.
Okay.
And because again, keep in mind, like, the movie is not trying to tell the story and try to get you familiar with the characters. Yeah. You went to go watch the movie because you already knew who the characters were. Okay. So you already kind of understood what it is.
Maybe that's why, maybe if she would have watched more of the episodes first and then watched the movies, she may have had more to tie it to than just like, what is this going on?
Yeah, I think if she watched it now, she'd have a greater affinity for it at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, they make movies and they just keep making movies. And keep in mind that these are not like insignificant movies either. They are number one in the Japanese box office for weeks sometimes.
That's crazy.
So
do you think that they're really that good though, or that it's just because that particular thing is so well known that they're just that everybody's going to go watch it? Like the Pokemon movie, right? Like here, like was that
when the first Pokemon movie came out? It was technically the second Pokemon movie to come out.
What about the live action one that was released? That had nothing to do with Japan, did it?
So Detective Pikachu, while it didn't have anything to do with Japan immediately, keep in mind that like there's a lot of, the main Asian guy in there was Ken Watanabe. Mm-hmm. Very much as an old school samurai character actor.
Were they the ones that developed that movie though? No, right?
No, but but they developed that movie with the Pokemon Company, and the Pokemon Company in of itself is primarily based in Japan, but is much more
they had
overarching
ties to keep
yes,
together,
I'm pretty sure when they were making the movie, they had a lot of help from the creators of saying these are what the Pokemon are kind of supposed to look like. If we did this, would this be okay with the company? Because we don't want to tarnish it at the end of the day, because it's still a property of them at the end of the day. And Japanese have been very okay with them making Western versions of stuff, because we have stuff like Ghost in the Shell, which came out a couple of years ago. It had Scarlett Johansson in it. Mm-hmm. Ghost in the Shell was originally a Japanese property. Okay. Which is very much was actually what The Matrix was partially based off of. Okay. The Wachowski sisters, now used to be brothers, but now sisters, originally saw Ghost in the Shell, and they wanted to make Ghost in the Shell for America. Okay. But they couldn't really get the rights to Ghost in the Shell at the time because they're not anybody in particular, so they made The Matrix, and it had a lot of hallmarks and similar appeals, because in Ghost in the Shell, there's this notion where cyberization is very popular. A lot of people are now literally take their brains and put them into android bodies. That's crazy. Yeah. In much of the same way, like you can have these android bodies with all this computer and circuitry and everything going on with it, you can hack people as well. Yeah. And you can make them do things they wouldn't want to do, or see things they wouldn't want to see, or convince them of something that they wouldn't want to convince. So there's a certain amount of security concern with that. And then it makes you wonder at the end of the day, are you really a robot with true AI? Are you a person still? Right. Or how much of a person do you need to be a person?
Person versus,
Yeah, and that's very much a theme of all Ghost in the Shell, because they do have a new version of it on Netflix right now, but I don't recommend watching it if you haven't seen the other stuff of it that came out back in the 90s.
Yeah, because it's different.
Which are not available anywhere, oddly. But again, it's an interesting show because it asks interesting questions, and it has really good action scenes and a lot of what we like to quote unquote plot, which is basically just fan service at the end of the day. But we like to call it plot.
Yeah. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink, not judge. Heavy air quotes.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see, what else? Speed Racer was originally a Japanese property. And there in Japan it's known as Mach 5.
Wasn't Speed Racer... So there was a cartoon, right?
So originally the cartoon, which originally premiered in like the late 60s, early 70s.
Is that the same Speed Racer that we had here? Yes. Or did we get it? Okay, so that was just brought over.
Literally, they brought over, edited it down a little bit, and redubbed it.
Okay, because I think I remember what Speed Racer looks like, and I don't remember like a particular article.
Tune, though. You remember, go Speed Racer.
Yeah.
Go Speed. And you've never seen the show ever. You know the tone.
Yeah, well, and like I said, my brother was he was into anime, so it's a big possibility that I had seen Speed, but I remember Speed Racer for whatever reason.
And what's interesting about that is that they changed the lyrics around, but the theme song in Japan is the exact same tone. Dun da 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 dun da da.
That's crazy, yeah.
Dun da 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 da. They just changed the words around. They did the same thing actually for Sailor Moon too.
Oh, I didn't know
that.
The
lyrics actually for the original version of Sailor Moon in Japanese are different lyrics, but they follow a very similar convention here when they read it here in America, where they follow a very similar. Literally, the music, if you heard it in Japan, would sound the exact same, just with English lyrics. Or if you were listening to Japanese, it would be Japanese lyrics at that point. Netflix did a show called Death Note, which is, again, one of my favorite series, because I really do think it's what anime has the ability to do of asking interesting questions in an interesting way.
Yeah.
They did an American version of it. Again, not great at all, but like still was out there.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot of other stuff. Japanese are interesting in the way that they feel that if you recreate their stuff at the end of the day, that they actually consider it as a homage to what they did.
Okay, so it's a good thing.
They appreciate that, like, you found this so interesting that you wanted to create more art based off of it.
As long as you don't botch it completely, then...
Oh, no, they don't even care about that.
Oh, cool, okay.
No, again, I mean, so there's an entire industry known as... So in the same way they make comics out of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And they turn comics into anime, there's a lot of anime that gets turned into comics.
Yeah.
There's a term, or a part of the terminology known as doshenshi.
Okay.
Which is basically fan-made comics.
Is that what they did with the My Little Ponies thing? The girls have like a set of comics. So
those are licensed from Hasbro.
Okay.
So those are the legitimate things. In Japan, basically you sell them and you sell them and you don't technically make a profit off of it.
Okay.
You can make a little bit of a profit, but not
it's just
that
like
much.
an extra thing to keep people.
Well, again, keep in mind, like, these are fan-made stuff.
Okay.
They're not sold anywhere but at this one convention you go to every 6 months.
Okay, so conventions. Okay.
And they're hard to find you'll never see them outside of this one little fan convention because somebody spent money to make it.
I was like, do people then more see them as like a collector's thing versus like?
Well, it's a lot of cases where if you really enjoy this one group of characters, you might want to see what somebody else's take on what their continuing adventures are, or what their things might have been at, or what new stuff they got up to. In some cases, you might find... so Mom and me had to learn these terms. There's a thing called shipping, which basically means that you put two characters together and you make them into a romance, even though they may or may not have that built into them. The term shipping actually comes from Star Trek.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the original Star Trek, the original series, ended after 3.5, 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And people wanted more seasons of it. And they started putting the characters together that shouldn't be put together. So, like, Captain Kirk and Spock, or Captain Kirk and Dr. McCoy, they were shipping them together.
Okay.
And if you, let's say, for example, you really love the bad guy in this one anime and you want to see him fall in love with the good guy, even though they're never supposed to do that.
Right.
They have extra stuff like that in Japan.
Okay.
And you might go there because you want to see or buy something like that, or you might go there because there's a favorite artist you have and you want to see what else they do or what else they've made, or you follow along periodically. I'm
assuming have you seen the Bronies documentary that was on Netflix?
Yes.
Do you remember when they were in there and people had made their own episodes of My Little Pony? Mm-hmm. That's kind of that
very similar thing, yeah.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Yeah, Japanese, in America, a lot of times America would stop it immediately because they feel that it's a lot of copywriting and trying to infringe and make money on you. Japanese don't take offense to it as much because they see it as, oh, you love this so much that we created something for you that you want to see more of it, that you're willing to do this. Versus in America, if you create something that's My Little Pony and you even consider making money off of it, Hasbro considers that infringement and basically doesn't want you to do that at all. Famously, there was a company that was trying to make a My Little Pony's fighting game.
Oh, okay.
And the company basically gave them a cease and desist. Lauren Faust, who was the creator, who was the original kind of spearhead for the new version of My Little Pony's Friendship is Magic, basically reached out to the company and agreed to make new, distinctly different ponies and characters for their game. And so now they have their own fighting game called I have to look it up real quickly. Them's Fighting Herds.
What?
So they've got like alpacas, llamas, sheep.
And is this like a video game or is this like
a full video game you can buy and play?
Do you have it?
I don't. I'm somewhat curious in it.
Right. Well, and what do they like? It's like a boxing like
no
fighting
like
they use
Fighter.
their power. What? We have to. I'm sorry. That's like one of us has to figure it out because it's like a Street Fighter game with what their special. What do they call it?
Again,
I'm like blanking today.
In the very same sort of vein, like you're thinking like a 2D side-scrolling fighter game.
That is hilarious.
Oh, and
their special like whatever they can do, right? Stop it.
I kid you not.
It's like a deer and a llama and is that a dog?
One of them has like a little puppy dog with them.
Them's Fighting Herds.
Yes.
What?
It is exceptionally cute. It's.
And it looks like there's extension packs.
Yes, they've added more characters since then. But keep in mind, Lauren Faust, the creator of this, who was the person who kind of redrew all the ponies originally.
Yeah.
She's the one who.
That's crazy. I wonder. I'm gonna have to ask my brother if he has it or if he's played it.
Let's see if I can.
Not that he's into My Little Ponies or anything, but that he's probably played some random things like this or seen it.
So we're watching a little bit of it here right now, and again, we'll put it in there as well. But again, I mean, like it's very kind of like.
Stop it. So yeah, they use their like thing. What are they called? Their
antlers or horns. They're using their hooves.
But their powers, like what do they call their powers on My Little Pony? Their
I don't know. I mean, there's unicorns that have like magical abilities, but like
their cutie marks have special powers or whatever. That is insane. I'm surprised my kids haven't come up and been like, Mom, let's buy this game yet.
But I mean, like again, if we're looking at it, like this would not be unfamiliar for me for something like.
No, it's Street Fighter, but it's with cute little animals.
Yeah, and look at that background too. Isn't that just the most adorable kind of looking like?
Just like homeboy sitting in the back, like, "What's up, guys?" And a deer.
Yeah, again, this is.
That's kind of funny. So she came up. She was like, "Hey, I'll do this."
Well, because again, I mean, Hasbro sent a cease and desist letter to this company originally.
You can't do it.
And they basically told them. Well, originally what they said was that even though their ponies were too similar to what My Little Pony was, and obviously they don't want to create brand confusion or anything like that at all.
Which is only 10% different. If what we know to be correct, you only have to alter image 10% for them to not be able to.
Yeah, to claim it to be one thing versus another.
Yeah.
But again, like when this happened, and again, keep in mind that when this happened, Lauren Faust had been separated from My Little Pony for several years at that point because she only did the one season of it.
Oh, okay. So she wasn't even working for My Little Pony at the time.
No, Lauren Faust only did the 1 year of it, and then after that, she was the executive producer and lead story creator for that first season, and every season thereafter that, she was an associate producer. So while she was a part of it, and while she was a part of the project, she did actually have her hands in it all. She had like some approvals and some sort of concept additional stuff like that.
Silly question. My Little Pony's not Japanese, right?
No. But there is Japanese My Little Pony.
What? Is it the same thing?
Yes. They did the reverse. They actually took the American stuff and translated it into Japanese.
What?
And they actually have a really cool... they actually have a kind of a pretty cool...
like spin on it?
Well, they actually have a really kind of cool animation. They have a really cool intro for it as well. So there are some other ponies here as well.
Dragon. This is fantastic.
This
is totally like...
this is totally legit. Like you got it.
Street Fighter.
Yeah. Let's see what else.
Street Fighter with cute animals.
There's the alpaca right there. The alpaca's very ditzy looking.
Doing ditzy things.
Mm-hmm. But no, again, it's it's all very cute, and this is just, keep in mind, this is gameplay from back in 2008, the very tail end of it.
Yeah.
So there's been more stuff that's since been released at the end of the day. Again, they're all just very cute little animals. And
they're completely the same as, I mean, not the same, but like, super similar. Mm-hmm. So then once she did it, then My Little Pony left them alone?
Well, again, I mean, these don't look anything like My Little Pony at the end of the day.
I mean, that's pretty similar.
It's in the similar vein at the end of the day, but again, I mean, like...
they hit that 10% mark or whatever. They hit whatever they needed to... Because, like, are you kidding me? That's not My Little Pony, that pony that was in the background? Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they got just close enough to it at the end of the day. And then keep in mind, at the end of the day, like, this is Lauren Faust's art. She has her own right to her own art at the end of the day, that she can make it... As long as she makes it a little bit different...
different enough to where... Yeah.
I mean, you'll find a lot of Japanese animation,
right? Like, that's crazy. Like, that's
the alpaca.
I see how she does. No, you see the horse back there.
Mm-hmm. You got the giraffe there in the corner. But yeah, we have. There's a lot of anime where you'll see the same character designers after a certain point.
Oh, okay.
Where you'll see a lot of the characters looking very similar to other shows in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
There's a show that you could have watched, which was Captor Sakura. It's done by a company called Clamp. Their characters look very similar all the time.
Like any episode, any show, any...
different shows.
Oh, okay.
So, like, one show... They all have kind of the same kind of very lanky sort of body sort of look to them.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find an example of that by chance, maybe.
That's cool, though. I mean, okay, now we need to try that out.
Well, I believe it's on the Switch.
And what is it called?
Them's Fighting Herds.
What a strange name.
It's a great name, actually. I mean, like, you're not going to get much closer to, like, fighting ponies.
Right, yeah.
Because then that seems a little...
That's awesome. I think the girls would love that game, too. Plus, it's not super graphic.
No.
Right? So you still get... But that's straight up Street Fighter. Just replacement.
So there's two different types of fighting games if you really want to be hyper technical. There's Street Fighter, and then there's like a Guilty Gear X style, where you have Street Fighter is a lot more physical, more realistic kind of.
I just meant like that setup of the screen where it's left to right. The characters are going. They've got their point systems up top that are going, and they've got they each have their own whatever magical powers that they can use, and they jump and they kick and. Mm-hmm. You know, it's all like on that level with the background behind it. Like that totally reminds me of.
So Clamp has a very kind of, if you notice the characters, very lanky, very kind of.
Yeah. So
this is from another show, which was actually kind of not the progenitor of Captor Sakura, but kind of the follow-up almost to it, called Tsubasa Chronicles. Another show called Code Geass, which is one of my favorite series. Again, all the characters are somewhat lanky and very kind of elongated, a lot taller looking in a certain way. These are all random Clamp characters.
When I think of anime, like this is the style that I think of.
It's a Clamp, which is a very pretty, beautiful style.
You know, like for whatever, like the face structure and the eyes and the swoops with the hair and the super thin, tall, lanky.
Because that's kind of what a Japanese person looks like in a lot of cases. Yeah. Very lanky, tall, on a certain scale. Very kind of, not always blonde hair, but you see a lot of people with dyed blonde hair, which is actually kind of rebellious in Japanese.
I feel like I say that all the time.
Because you can get away with stuff in anime.
There you go.
Because again, I mean, in all honesty, nobody's going to have bright pink hair.
Yeah, exactly. Or the purplish, or the blue, or the teal.
So what's a typical thing in anime to do is that people who have black hair, because you know people with black hair don't always have the same shade of black hair. Yeah. Sometimes a little lighter, some a little bit darker.
They'll do like the shade of blue or something with it, right?
Like, they'll do like little blue highlights, sort of bluer versus purple.
Oh God.
Her name is Sailor Mars, and there's also Sailor Mercury.
No,
they have black hair, but one of them is blue and one of them is red. A different
show that, and of course, because I don't know a lot about anime, people are probably going to laugh at me. It's the ball that's yellow with the red stars in it.
Dragon Ball.
There you go. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, right? Mm-hmm. How he goes from, like, he has a yellow version, like the yellow hair, and then doesn't he also have, like, a bluish?
So,
Or are those completely different characters?
No, the same thing going on there.
Okay.
So Goku starts as having black hair.
Goku.
He goes into what he calls a Super Saiyan mode, which is that bright blonde sort of hair.
Yeah.
Do you know what the original impetus for that was?
What?
Was that when Akira Toriyama, who was the creator of Dragon Ball, was creating the manga, he got tired. He was running out of black ink a lot.
So I can't do this anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, he was running out of a lot of black ink because everything in the comic is just black and white. There's just maybe slight shades of gray, but not by much. Most of it's black and white. But he went through a lot of black ink. So when he came up with the new power sort of thing that he transformed into, he did it with just. It was really just supposed to be white hair with no highlights in it. And then when he had to do the colored version of it, because you always do like a color page eventually for the magazine at some point, the creator he came back with white hair on, and the creators were like, and the publishers were like, could you maybe give it a little bit of color? Maybe this doesn't look right. Yeah. And then so he came back and he turned it blonde, and it was like, oh, that's perfect.
That's good. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So later, newer versions of Dragon Ball, which I'm always hesitant to believe that there are newer versions of Dragon Ball.
I know, yeah.
Series ended back in 1994-95.
That's the Dragon Ball that I know because my brother was super hard into that. But like like I said, the new stuff, I don't know. But a lot of people were to ask me to paint it, so I've seen multiple pictures, and I'm like, this is the real Dragon Ball. This is not the real Dragon Ball.
So then they get to like a blue hair, and then they get powered up, it turns to pink, and I'm just like. Stop messing with it.
Yeah, leave his hair alone.
So to circle back around at the end of the day, which again was kind of the funny way of getting here, Japanese people don't see it as an issue if you pay homage to their shows.
Okay.
They actually are. What's the phrase? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery for them.
Okay, makes sense.
Versus America, where if you were to, again, with like Fighting Herds as an example,
they think you're stealing their work.
They think you're stealing their work, or they think that you're trying to basically make money off of all the money they initially had to put in to get to where they got to.
Right.
And so in Japan, you're not. I mean, there's very few things in America that got translated over to Japan easily. There's a Japanese Powerpuff Girls.
What? I loved Powerpuff Girls as a kid. Mia likes it.
There's a Japanese Powerpuff Girls. The way they get their powers is that it's just 3 random girls that just got given superpowers at one day.
Just somebody walks up to them and is like, "Guess what, girls?
Oh no,
you were chosen."
The original accident kind of happened, but it like shot off in different ways.
Okay.
They all have their own transformation sequence. It's very cute.
Yeah.
And. They have like almost all the old characters come back at some point.
Do they have dubs for that or no?
I've not seen an American dub for that. No.
Okay. Do they have what's it called? Is dub the voiceover and the subtitles or no?
So when we think of it here in America, we think of dubs as English dubs versus Japanese subtitles.
Yeah.
See, my biggest problem is I keep thinking of it as Powerpuff, not Powder Puff.
Is it Powder Puff?
Yes.
In Japanese?
No, in American.
What?
It was always Powder Puff Girls.
No, it wasn't. It was Power... Really? You're lying. It's Powder?
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was Power, not... Maybe you were thinking Powder, not Powder.
I was thinking it was Powder. So.
Oh, they're like
they're anime styles, yeah.
Yeah.
They look vaguely American.
Yeah. They just like, I feel like the Powerpuff Girls are...
Powerpuff Girls Z.
Oh, see, so here it's Powder Puff.
Yeah. Oh, and I typed it in as Powder Puff.
Okay.
I've heard it both ways. Powerpuff and then Powder.
Dude. The evil guy, the monkey?
Yep, the monkey's there. But yeah, again, everything's got a very anime aesthetic kind of going on with it.
What?
They have an entire transformation sequence, which is not too dissimilar from probably Glitter Force in a certain way.
Same kind of thing.
But again, that's not unusual for a staple of magical schoolgirl show.
So is there any way for me to understand this besides knowing Japanese?
Yeah, they have it subtitled.
Oh, okay, so I can watch subtitle.
Girlfriend. Like if it came out in Japan, unless it's really bizarre,
crazy? Yeah.
Like there is a subtitle for it.
Okay, they fly. They still do the little.
They still fly. Yeah. Each of them have their own weapons though. So Bubbles has got a bubble rod. Blossom has a yo-yo, and then Buttercup has a mallet.
She even still has like the big bow.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
The bow is just outrageously huge. And I love the intro. The intro is very cute sounding too. So, but no, yeah. Again, there is a Japanese.
Even Professor.
They have a Professor X.
Yeah.
Or Professor Utonium, or whatever his name is.
I don't remember what his name is. But even he looks similar to
the American version.
Yeah.
Yeah. It exists.
Crazy.
It won't go away.
Crazy.
Well, this was a collab with Cartoon Network. So,
okay.
So Cartoon Network gave their blessing and wanted to do this.
Okay.
There's been a few shows in which Cartoon Network's actually were anime that were in Japan and then they helped produce to get it over here originally. So there was a show called The Big O. It sounds kind of familiar, but there was only 6 episodes in America.
What?
Only 6 episodes of the series, each half hour long. Revolve around this guy that's kind of a detective, kind of like a freelancer, that somehow always comes across other giant robots, and so he has his own giant robot that he uses to destroy the first giant robot. It was not popular in Japan at all.
So they tried to bring it over here.
Well, America got it for cheap at the end of the day. They were able to dub it. It was cheap. It was 6 episodes of Villain Somewhere. It aired on Cartoon Network had a block called Toonami, which is kind of an afternoon block of more actiony boy related shows.
Okay.
And eventually, they started showing anime on there, which was very popular. And there was a lot of anime that wasn't suited for the 4, 5, 6 in the afternoon sort of block. So they had Adult Swim showing Japanese animation.
Okay.
This was one of those shows that they showed on there.
Okay.
And America loved...
For whatever reason, those 6 episodes.
They loved those 6 episodes for no particularly discerningly good reason.
Okay.
And so Cartoon Network reached out to Japan, to the original creators, got the entire crew together and asked for more episodes of it. Another popular show in America here that was on Cartoon Network was Trigun, which is...
I think I've seen that.
Like a big red coat, the guy with this very spiky blonde hair, and he's got like a 6-shot revolver in his hand.
It sounds familiar.
It probably...
Because I watched Cartoon Network, so...
See if I can pull it up real quickly. Does he look familiar by chance?
He does.
Yeah.
This doesn't, but this does.
Yeah. So original was a Japanese manga, which a lot of stuff starts off as. I didn't realize that at first. I thought it was its own thing originally.
Yeah.
Found the Japanese manga for it and was like, oh, this is awesome. It actually got canceled right when the anime got started.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Eventually, mostly because it got canceled because the magazine it was being publishing got canceled.
Oh, okay.
He was able to find another publisher for it about 6 to 8 months later and kept going on with it. Mm-hmm. But by that point, the anime had already started.
Oh, okay.
And so he helped fill in some of the gaps of where he thought the story would go, and so they created anime out of it. Not popular here, not popular in Japan either,
but popular,
but super popular here in the West. Another show which goes by Cowboy Bebop, which is probably
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop.
Never heard of it.
Imagine we figured out space travel, and it's basically about bounty hunters in space.
Okay.
But they're just like in everyday sort of looking clothing. And if it didn't have spaceships in it, you wouldn't realize that it did. That's all kind of, the space element is not a big thing.
Okay.
I am a heathen because I don't care for the show.
Okay.
But a lot of people who were in which that was your first show are like,
oh my god,
oh my goodness, it was the greatest. And it's a good show. I just don't care for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, makes sense.
But that's true of a lot of Japanese. If I were to ask you what your favorite cartoon show was when you were a kid, you would probably say what was the first one you ever watched. For me, that was DuckTales, because that was the first real cartoon I remember. Mm-hmm. I remember Mom making me a DuckTales costume. Yeah. I was Scrooge McDuck for a number of years. My favorite Disney character to this day is Scrooge McDuck.
For a number of years. Not even for a couple, yeah.
Well, first it was Donald Duck, then it was Scrooge McDuck, then it was Darkwing Duck.
There you go. I remember Darkwing Duck.
Yeah. But again, that was my jam. Mm-hmm. And again, to this day, Scrooge McDuck is my favorite Disney character.
Yeah.
and I could be the furthest from his ideals and beliefs, but it's still my favorite character.
Yeah.
But again, that's whatever your favorite thing when you first watched it. Your favorite thing is usually the first thing you ever watched,
right?
Which is only because you've made a connection to what it was, even if it's not intentional.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people that first saw anime, that would have been Trigun and Cowboy Bebop and a few other titles like Gundam Wing, which I find to be an absolute horrible series, but to a lot of people, it's their favorite Gundam series ever.
Yeah, it's like their kids show that they watched all the time, and
it's what got them into the genre. It's what got them into the dance at the end of the day. So of course they're going to love it.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's not uncommon for anime as well.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how we got onto this version of this topic.
No, I don't remember.
I think we're still trying to explain how Japanese comics originally were again. So we did Sailor Moon. I want to go briefly over some of the other shows that we didn't get a chance to watch in case anybody got to watch those.
I was super interested in. We just didn't get to it, but the one with the blood cells and stuff. What was that one called?
Cells at Work.
I just was interested to see how that.
So it's very interesting because it's educational.
Yeah.
Or it's intentionally educational. So, if memory serves me correctly, I want to say the episodes are only 15 minutes each.
Okay.
They're not super long. Oh no, they're full. Oh no, never mind. I apologize. They're full 24-minute episodes. There you go. I guess there's a 2-story thing to it.
Okay.
Which is not uncommon. Sometimes you'll have an A story and then a B story.
Yeah.
Which the first part of the story happens until the commercial breaks, and then the new story starts after the commercial break. Which is probably why I thought about that. Cells at Work is kind of an interesting show because it revolves around a red blood cell, which are delivery people. Mm-hmm. They deliver boxes everywhere. They're the Amazon of your body. Okay. Who befriends a white blood cell, who are, again, they go after the viruses in your body. Mm-hmm. They're homicidal maniacs. They are not afraid about, they carry just a knife, and they're just not afraid about stabbing whatever is not supposed to be in the body just to death. Okay. You have platelets, which again were the stuff that kind of rebuild your body and everything. Mm-hmm. They're school children for no particularly discerning reason.
School children running around.
But in large clumps. And the only reason you can tell they're school children is because when you're a kid in Japan and you go to a daycare sort of thing or an early sort of child's care sort of thing, usually between the ages of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, kind of in that first initial elementary school range, you might wear to school. You don't wear a uniform at all when you're in elementary, typically.
But you have some sort of dress code, right?
You have a typical dress code, which would not be too dissimilar to what you would wear here in America for going to elementary school. But what you might actually also wear is you might have, especially if you're a much younger kid, you might have kind of a drape that you wear. So you wear kind of like this. For boys, it's usually blue. Girls usually wear pink. And you might have a cap that goes along with it. Kind of looks like a raincoat almost. Okay. But they're meant to be very simple and easy. You'll see them a lot more being worn if you are outside of school. Okay. So that way you know which are your students and where they are. Yeah. It's not until you get to middle school when you start getting a uniform, and usually that's a very basic sort of
white polo, blue jean. Or
no. So in America that might be the case. In Japan, this is a typical schoolgirl sort of sailor fuku, which is the cape behind the back, the little kind of tie in the front, and the pleated skirt, and then the guys are kind of wear kind of a black gancho, I want to say is the word for it. I know it starts with a G, but basically it looks kind of like a military uniform almost. Yeah. And then when you go to high school, you typically start wearing blazers, suits. You start wearing more of a blazer sort of look. So girls, if they do wear a sailor fuku, it's usually a little bit more professionally made almost. Typically starts looking like a blazer, pleated skirt, and usually like a vest or a dress blouse. Yeah. And guys are definitely, it's almost basically a suit. Yeah. If it's not
very professional
looking. If it's not like a professional sort of gancho where you would have a button-down shirt in the middle down the way. Yeah. So typically as you get closer in there, the intention is so that you wore this you wear your school uniform to funerals, weddings, important events. So you could because it'd be the nicest thing you owned on a certain level.
Yeah.
For school. Not really uniforms is not the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
But Cells at Work is interesting because it's meant to be educational. It's very much rated. It's PG, if memory serves me correctly, but it really just straddles that line between PG and G if it weren't for all the murderous homicidalness of killing the viruses.
Yeah.
It can be a little... It's meant to be educational.
Yeah.
Another show that we had the option to watch was Captor Sakura. Again, that was the artwork that you saw. It was very pretty, typical of what you would think of Japanese animation. I think the girls would find that kind of interesting if they like Sailor Moon and Glitter Force. Mm-hmm. It's not a team of it a lot of times, but still a good show on that particular regard. Again, Kaleido. Again, if you're like me, where you heard the original Japanese version, you hear the English version, it doesn't work.
Right.
But I actually watched it in English for a little bit, and I was like, okay, I can eventually get used to this. It's not going to be easy, but I can eventually tune it out.
Right.
And again, this is basically just Cirque du Soleil, but without all the sexual overtones. I think that Cirque du Soleil gets.
Yeah, agreed.
Very lighthearted. Again, like even the first episode, they're dressing up as like animals, and they're on trampolines, juggling and flipping. It's so weird. It's so weird, but it's very endearing.
Yeah.
A great movie I recommend off of Netflix right now is Fireworks.
Okay.
Again, so the story primarily revolves around this one kid who really likes this one girl and wants to take her to the festival where they're going to have fireworks. Mm-hmm. And he wants to, say, hey, you want to be my girlfriend at this point. Yeah. The parents basically don't want that to happen at all, so they're going to send her away somewhere else to go live with like cousins or something, and aunts and uncles. Yeah. And what ends up happening here is that the boy keeps going to this station to meet her, and when he doesn't meet her, it takes him back in time. Okay. So he gets to redo it frequently and constantly, and so by the very end, he gets to go to the actual festival with her, kidnap her, and take her to the festival essentially. Mm-hmm. And he gets to propose to her there, but at the end of the day, he realizes that she actually wants to move because it'll be better for her education. Okay. So he eventually just lets her do that. Yeah. Even though they still have a relationship. Yeah. But a lot more distance now. Yeah. It's very cute and interesting. It's done by the same guy who did... so there's a great show... There was a great movie called Your Name. Okay. And... it's very interesting because it's kind of like... do you remember Freaky Friday? Mm-hmm. Okay. It's kind of in a similar vein where this one girl who lives out in the countryside, far away from Tokyo and any sort of modern technology. She lives a very kind of weird, structured life because she's the daughter of priestesses. Okay. And so she does a lot of the priestess ceremonial sort of stuff, which is... everyone kind of like watches an interest but kind of frowns upon it because it's not
what they're doing.
Well, all of her friends kind of frown upon it, and all the upper high school kids all frown upon her because it's like, oh, look at her, she's doing that. Mm-hmm. Specifically what she's doing, she's making a certain type of alcohol where she takes some of the grain and barley and stuff into her mouth and then spits it back out to make like saliva alcohol. What? Okay. By a young priestess. Okay. Who wouldn't want to drink that? Right. Versus this kid who lives in Tokyo, a very exciting sort of world, and everything's too busy for him. He wants
complete opposites.
Very much complete opposites. Again, guy versus girl. And somehow she wakes up in his body and he wakes up in her body. Okay. And over the course of a couple weeks or months, I want to say months by the way the series kind of portrays it, they switch back and forth kind of like every other day almost. They end up keeping like a diary of, I did this while I was here and you did this while you were here.
Okay, and they swap it?
Well, because again, like when
when he wakes up, it's already in the diary ready for him. Okay, so they can keep track.
So he knows what's going on and what's happened. And she likes it in Tokyo. He kind of likes being out in the sticks because it's different. But they have very different ways of doing stuff where he's a lot more boisterous, even though he's not supposed to be, whereas she's a little bit more meeker.
Yeah.
And eventually, what ends up happening is that they lose contact with one another because they stop switching. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't understand how that happened.
Do they stay in their own, like, do they stay in the opposite bodies when this happens?
They switch bodies.
Oh,
So she's in a guy's body. She freaks out initially when that happens.
Okay,
the same thing
gotcha.
with him. He freaks out when that happens.
But when they lose contact, like, she's in his body still and he's in her... Oh, they're back in their original bodies.
Okay. What you end up finding out is that she's actually been dead for 3 years.
What?
Because a meteor hit her town. Or hit the lake where her town was at and basically...
And that's why they lost...
connection. But they don't know why. Because, again, when it was August for her, it was August for him as well. They just didn't look at what the date... They didn't really focus on the date at all.
Okay.
And realized that he was 3 years ahead of her. Or 3 years behind her. So she's 92, he's 95.
Okay.
If that makes more sense.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, but it continues on from there. But that's just the hook I would get for that. He's done a lot of other interesting shows. The Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
I think I've heard of that.
It's a girl who basically accidentally gets time travel powers, and goes back in time and goes backwards and forwards through time to just kind of screw around. Yeah. And then eventually realizes that if she goes back in time,
it screws something else.
Well, it's not that it screws something else up at all. It's just that she's using it very stupidly to begin with, and then she realizes that eventually that this was supposed to be somebody else's ability that she kind of stole because one of her friends is a time traveler. Okay. And so she needs to give it back to him, but every single time she goes back in time, she ends up messing up and doing more damage to other people. Okay. The good intentions... The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Is the best way to put that. Okay. Another very interesting show. I always love this guy's movies whenever he comes out with them. But I do recommend Fireworks. Yeah. I'm waiting for Your Name to come out because I think there's a version of it in English that will come out eventually. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it hasn't. Yeah. I would actually just love to see an American version of that to just kind of did it in an American way. Yeah. You know, some girl that lives out in like Idaho with like nothing around and some guy that lives in like Los Angeles or something. That'd be kind of it. Or New York would probably be the better one there. If you ever get the chance to, and I don't know if the girls will find this interesting beyond being pretty, Violet Evergarden
you were telling me about that.
A feast for the eyes. Okay. Let me see if I can find it. It's very pretty. It's very beautiful. It's got this beautiful soundtrack to it as well. All the characters are well acted in it. One thing I love about Google is that if you try to open up in a new tab an image, it's like, oh, you just want the image or do you want the entire website? Yeah, exactly. No, open the image up in a new tab. And So it's Violet Evergarden. Yeah. It's a beautiful story. Again, the story primarily revolves around Violet. She lost her arm. She's got mechanical arms because from the elbow down she lost her arms. Both of them? Both of them in the war. And so now she's got these robotic fingers. In this world, it's kind of a steampunk kind of world where there's not really a whole lot of electricity everywhere. Okay. There is a version of electricity, but not other people write a whole lot often. Okay. And so what she does is she writes letters for people in which she rewrites it in a way that gives it a more professional or somewhat more impactful feeling to it. Okay. So as an example, if you wanted to write a love letter, you would kind of express your feelings to her, and then she would rewrite it in a nice way for you to make it sound more lovey-dovey. Yeah. And then as a result, she originally she's not very good at it because she's like a robot on a certain level. Yeah. And so her original version of like a love letter is basically like, oh, I really like you. Yeah, like something super basic. Well, I mean, one girl described how much she liked this guy because how rich he was and how handsome he was and that she would be the perfect person for him because of this and that. So instead of writing in a more tactful way, she just literally played that, and this girl lost out on her dream date. Oh, okay. And she later wrote another letter that basically apologized on a certain level, but rephrased it in such a way that he gave this other girl a second chance. Oh, okay. And so the story kind of revolves around her trying to figure out what it means to love and be in a relationship almost. All these emotions and everything.
Okay, that's cool.
One of my favorite stories is that, and it's not too much of a plot twist to do it, But she goes and visits a woman who's constantly in bed because she's sick and everything. Mm-hmm. And she has a young daughter that's playing around, constantly wants to play with her mom.
Yeah. But her mom is the sick one.
Her mom is sick.
Okay.
And Violet is basically stealing her mother away from her.
Okay.
To write these letters that the mom desperately needs to have written
because she's
dying. And then what you end up finding out is these letters were actually letters for the next 50 some odd years for her daughter on her birthday.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And so it's very cute where it's very sentimental at the end, almost made me tear up where she's opening up these letters and you kind of see as every year as her birthday expands and
she's starting to realize.
Well, no, she gets the letter and realizes that this is what was written, but every year the letters are talking about, oh, I hope you found a family, I hope you're eating well, like
different milestones that she would hit that she's not going to be there for.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's very sweet and sentimental, and that's the entire story. Everything.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Everything almost like wants to punch you in the feelings.
Right. Yeah.
Really, really hard. Yeah.
But no, the artwork is that's amazing.
The artwork is amazing. They're making a second season.
Yeah. I guess.
So if they finally get it out, I don't know when it'll come out, but it's definitely a show I would recommend anybody to watch, even if you're not a fan of Japanese animation at all. And then the last one for me is a guilty pleasure. It's Teasing Master Tagaki-san.
Okay.
This is just cute and funny because every episode's about 5 actual little stories in it.
Yeah.
Or 4 or 5 different little stories in it, and they're all basically these 2 characters. Just there's a guy who doesn't like being teased by his classroom neighbor, which just happens to be Takagi-san, who likes teasing him. Mm-hmm. So as an example, he's like folding up a piece of paper to make like an accordion spring out of it.
Yeah.
And what he wants to do is he wants to put his pencil case in it, and he wants to have her open up his pencil case and then have this thing shoot out at her and kind of scare her. But she beats him to the punch, and like, I can't open up this up at all. So weird. I don't understand. Will you open it? It's like, yeah, sure, I can do that for you.
Oh right, yeah.
And that's all it is.
Okay.
They're very cute, simple little things.
Yeah.
Like as an example, who can hold like. They're walking back from school and they decide they want to have, one guy decides, let's have a contest who can carry the most ice with them from here to the end of the block.
Okay.
So he picks up a really large shard of ice, while she picks up a slightly smaller one. But because he doesn't have any gloves on, his hands get really cold and he can't hold on to it properly and ends up dropping it.
Yeah.
As where she carries around this little piece of ice and she's perfectly fine. So,
yeah.
Well, looks like I won.
Yeah.
It's a very cute little innocent story.
Yeah.
The manga that this is based off of are also very short, like 9-page little things.
Okay.
I particularly like the follow-up to it, which he's currently doing at the same time, which is about their younger daughter when they get married.
Okay, cool.
And so she's like 3 or 4 years old. And so that's even cuter.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of my nieces so much.
Right,
on a certain level. That one's more a guilty pleasure that I recommend. You can watch it with children and not... There's nothing inherently... I think it's a show meant more for adults at the end of the day, but like...
Something inappropriate about it on...
There's nothing inappropriate on that particular level, but adults will find more entertainment out of it than anything else.
Yeah.
And so, you've had a foray into anime before. What do you think in general?
I think it's cool. It's definitely like a different world, like especially because we're like westernized, right? So like it's definitely different than the cartoons we have here and things like that. They have very specific things to make them who they are, and so you can like pinpoint it. And like I feel like there's a lot of people who have probably seen Japanese anime and not even realized it, which I feel like is what we talked about the first episode. Was like, oh, actually, you have seen a lot more than you think, and this is Japanese anime, and you just don't realize it because you're not looking for Japanese anime.
Yeah.
But it's funny because obviously the reason that we did this initially was because I saw my kids watching it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, let's see what you guys are watching and let's be part of it. And the couple movies, but there's way more out there than I thought. So it's pretty interesting. Like it's its own world, and that whole world has so much to like offer on different levels, but it's super interesting.
What I like about it, especially for my nieces, is that it's an opportunity to see a different part of the world on a certain level.
Yeah.
Because my love for animation is not the animation side of it at the end of the day. That's actually the thing that's just an additional ancillary sort of thing. What I love in Japanese animation is to let me see interesting stories and interesting ideas being played out, especially in the sense where I can watch a show where I just watched a show called Robotic Notes, and it's literally about a high school kids building a giant robot. Mm-hmm. And then the entire world gets weird. Yeah. But these kids, their goal for the robotics lab is to build a 10-foot, a 20-foot tall, or not even a 20-foot tall, I think it's probably more in the range of like 30, 40-foot tall giant robot.
There you go.
Because one of them loved a Japanese show that had a giant robot in it. Yeah. They literally want to make this giant robot. Yeah. And it's kind of endearing that you watch it and you're just like, it's kind of cool that they just want to build this robot at the end of the day. Yeah. And if that was the only thing the show was at the end of the day, I would have loved it. It was like, well, how do these motors work and how do we put these servos on and things like that. Yeah. If it was just that, it'd be even better. But it was just about this giant robot.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. For
my nieces, what I like is that it's a way to introduce them into a different kind of culture that they're not already familiar with.
Exactly.
And, the world is becoming a lot more, not westernized is not the best way to phrase it, probably a little bit more modern and stuff. Yeah. Japan's an interesting culture where it's very much steeped in a lot of old tradition and stuff. Like they don't, like paying with credit card is not a common feat in Japan. Yeah. You still pay with money for a lot of stuff. So like you go to a convenience store, you don't pay with a credit card, you pay with cash. Yeah. You get on the train and that's an odd thing where you actually have an RFID rail pass, like a library card almost. Yeah. And I find that stuff super interesting on different levels because it's like, here's a culture that seems way more modern than you would ever think. Mm-hmm. They've got literally bullet trains that go to different places, and they've got all this interesting technology that comes out of it. But at the same time, they love their shrines, they love their temples. There's a very much kind of a culture that still is very old at the end of the day, but somehow getting modern. Yeah, and it's interesting to me because I don't know. Cause keep in mind, they've had thousands of years to have this culture. Yeah. Here in America, we've only really been a country for maybe, if we're being generous, 240, 250 years. So we don't have as much tradition and built up and stuff, and we're a big melting pot of everything to begin with. So we don't have anything that's instinctively ours. I think besides like apple pie and baseball. Right. Maybe basketball, but basketball was even created by a Canadian guy originally.
Not ours then.
So, but again, I find that all very interesting. And I would love to get my nieces into starting to see the world in a different way, because I think if you start at an earlier age, it's not as much of a shock when you see different stuff.
Well, and it's just developing appreciation for stuff that's different from your own. Mm-hmm. Like on any level, whether it's anime or whether it's actually going to Japan or seeing what these characters go through versus what our characters go through. Like, it's just seeing difference from you is always positive, right? And it can be used in a positive way versus just...
Or at least giving them the idea to say, because again, I mean, like when something's different, you want to ask, well, why is it different? This is why it's different. Yeah. And getting them to appreciate that the world is different and these are the reasons why it's different, because... maybe that's something that outlooks on their life. Again, one of my favorite tenets and why I rarely, if ever, get angry anymore about anything was from a Japanese animation, oddly enough.
There you go.
Where the character was this cool, suave individual, and everyone kept asking, it was like, aren't you angry about what that guy did? She's like, my entire blood is boiling right now for what that guy just did. Yeah. I can't believe that guy just did that. He's trampled over everything I've ever believed in. However, me getting angry about it's not going to change anything. And if I have the ability to fix it, I'll fix it and I'll make it better. And if I don't have the ability to fix it, nothing I do is going to change that at all. Yeah. So why, if I can't fix it, can't get angry about it. If I can fix it, then I can go fix it. I don't have to be angry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And somehow that's always just stuck with me. It's like, okay, if I can't fix something, I don't need to get angry about it. I just need to either move on or figure out what I do next. Yeah. Move on. Yeah. So I don't get angry about stuff very often anymore.
Me either. Yeah, I'm pretty nonchalant when it comes to all that stuff too. So it's good. Like, I'm glad they're getting into it. It's like I said, it's a super interesting, array of what they offer. Like, it's really cool to watch it.
And especially with a lot of new stuff coming out constantly. Like, I don't know when Amazon will figure out that they can use their Amazon Prime video servicing on, because I don't think you can get Prime on the Roku boxes or anything.
I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because Amazon Prime has got a bunch of Japanese animation kind of hidden behind a paywall right now.
Okay.
But obviously because they're relenting a little bit with that. There's some of that stuff starting to come back.
Yeah.
It's starting to come back out again more easily. It's just they don't believe in translating stuff. They don't believe in dubbing anything at all.
They just want it ready to go and not have to do any in betweens and just
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, like translating is not that difficult. It's just localization of the text at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of people like myself still enjoy subtitled Japanese animation versus English dub. Even though I'm more in line for English dubs now because I just don't want to watch subtitles because I won't want to do 15 things at once.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of that has the ability to come from Amazon if they decided they ever want to do dubbing, which is more expensive to do it because you need to pay people to do it. Amazon can be a real giant game changer in there, much in the same way that Netflix has been that. Netflix has had the ability to license these animes from other companies that have already done the dubbing if they haven't paid for it themselves.
Yeah. Which takes out the middleman, so it helps them. They're just grabbing it.
They're basically, again, what's better than to recuperate your costs from that, especially get the name out there as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of, especially anime, is never going to get bought from DVD ever again.
Right.
Except in Japan.
Yeah, I know.
No, literally in Japan, they still sell DVDs. It's the most common way to buy something.
That's crazy.
They buy more DVDs in Japan than they do, more music CDs than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
Same thing with DVDs and Blu-rays. They buy more of it in Japan than they do anywhere else in the world at this point.
That's crazy.
Because again, we can stream it now, especially with like Disney Plus. Like you'll never need to buy another Marvel movie or Disney movie ever again. They have it all
on there. Yeah.
Unless Disney decides to be a real prick and just decide we're putting Pinocchio back in the vaults.
Right.
You won't be able to watch it for at least another.
Because I was like,
6 months.
I'm trying to think like, because like right now, like, is Wreck-It Ralph Disney?
Yes, Wreck-It Ralph is Disney.
So there's only one Wreck-It Ralph on Disney Plus right now.
Oh, which one is it? It's the newer one.
I think it's the newer one. So like that's what they're doing is they're shifting stuff in and out.
No, they're not. Because the problem is probably with Wreck-It Ralph is they probably have it licensed
to somewhere else, so they can't bring it to Disney Plus.
That's what happened right now. That's what happened with a lot of the original Marvel movies that were on Netflix originally, like Black Panther, Captain Marvel.
So they're waiting for
Infinity
those contracts
War.
to be up
Yeah,
before they can bring
they're waiting
it.
for the licensing agreements to basically end, and basically at that point they won't renew it again,
and they'll just put it on Disney Plus.
And they'll just put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why we didn't see Captain Marvel, which was originally on, or not Captain Marvel. Not Captain Marvel is not a good example, but Infinity War and Black Panther originally were on Netflix, but then because Disney Plus eventually came out, they didn't renew the agreement for that, and so now those things got back onto Disney Plus. And so that's part of the reason for that.
Yeah.
My imagination for Wreck-It Ralph as an example, which in and of itself is a great movie. Like,
yeah,
we don't talk about Wreck-It Ralph anymore.
We love Wreck-It Ralph, yeah.
I love Wreck-It Ralph. Did you get to play the video game in Disneyland? They had the actual Wreck-It Ralph arcade game in Japan, Disneyland.
I did not know that.
Not Disneyland Japan, keep in mind. In the actual like, California Disneyland.
Yeah.
And it was free to play, and I thought it was hilarious to play it because you're just like,
this is really it.
The Disney actually went out and paid somebody to make an actual video game based on this concept.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't surprise me if they did that first before they actually made the series. Or fleshed out more of the series even. But no, yeah, it's a great silly little game. Reminds me of like Donkey Kong very much.
Yeah.
But it's a good little game.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, so I would love to see more stuff come out here in America. Obviously, part of the problem with that is just going to be making money off of it because anime, as much as you want to tell a very interesting story, you're going to make money off of it first before anything else.
Yeah.
So there's just that boundary in there. But once we get more of that out there, I mean, like, I can't wait to introduce the girls to different shows and different ideas because, again, I think Japanese animation for me is interesting because they're willing to try and tell interesting stories that with no straight out good guy, no straight out bad guy, with a lot of nuance in it, which I think a lot of the world really is a lot more nuance than we give it credit for.
Yeah.
And I like Japanese animation willingness to try to tell interesting stories through interesting plots and developments, even if they have no basis in reality at all.
Yeah.
But they ask interesting questions and offer interesting dialogues that you can have outside of that.
Yeah.
So, So we're going to put all these notes and all the stuff we watched online at our website at thenerdtutorialpodcast.com. You can continue discussion with us at our Facebook group at facebook.com/nerdtutorialpodcast. And if you have any ideas for future topics, we highly recommend that you hit me up on nerd_tutorial on Twitter and let me know. We also follow all the things that we talk about on Twitter as well. So any sort of new updates like Batman and stuff like that, Marvel movies, we follow that on Twitter right now. So any sort of new updates, you can check a look at our Twitter feed as well if you're interested in any of that. You can see new stuff that comes out. There's a new, even though we're still in this entire COVID stuff, they're coming out with a new Magic Day series.
What?
Well, they're coming out with a new deck. They come out with like a new playset like every 3-4 months.
Oh, okay. So that's
So that's not unexpected. I'm surprised they would be doing it in the middle of this because nobody's going to be able to play paper Magic. They'll have to do it online on Magic Arena.
I mean, but you could still play at home with siblings and stuff.
Yeah.
Ish, right?
You can. You'd have to find siblings to play it with is the only problem. I mean,
Okay.
A lot of unfortunate Magic players are a lot more adults of my age and older.
But you could do an online thing, right? Where you're
Well, it's Magic Arena. They let you play the entire game on Magic Arena.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So doesn't matter having cards?
It doesn't matter having cards, but if you don't have the cards, you can't play with people in front of you.
Oh, well then, yeah, that's why. Then you could just order your stuff and then get it from Amazon, and then you guys could have your little online arena thing.
I know. The wide web is so beautiful.
Played Magic.
It's okay. I don't recommend it.
No? Why?
You remember your husband and Amiibos?
Yeah.
That's Magic.
Okay. Yeah. We'll
But imagine not collecting these one little figurines for like $5-10 each. Imagine collecting hundreds of thousands of cards every couple months, and then reading all the cards to make sure they do what they do, so then you could use them in a battle, and then trying to make sure you remember all the other cards. That
Oh God, no!
Yeah.
I'm having a hard enough time trying to explain the Pokemon game to the girls for this little Pokemon class they signed up for, and I'm like, guys, I'm lost.
Oh, don't worry. Or imagine collecting all these Pokemon and knowing what every single one evolves at, and what every single ability that I'll ever have, and creating the perfect team off of that.
God, no, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, I think Magic is a great game to get interested into if you got the time to invest in it. And if you play it long enough, you'll figure out how it works, and you'll figure out what stuff is good cards and what are bad cards, and what does what and what has synergy with other stuff. Sometimes the entry to barrier is a little bit more difficult because a lot of the people who play it have played it for years and are not
open to newcomers.
Well, it's not that it's not open to newcomers. It's like trying to get a person to. It's like trying to tell a person, oh, you want to learn to program video games?
Yeah.
Great. Let me show you how to program a video game. And you're like,
what?
Whoa. There's a lot of other stuff I need before I can learn how to just make my own video game.
Yeah.
So, if you're interested in trying to, it's a very complex and difficult game, very much similar to the same line of chess, even. But part of the problem is that that there is a barrier to entry where you either figure out you like playing with this or you don't.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there's not a huge paywall in it. I mean, like you can get starter decks for as little as $10 each.
Yeah.
And again, I got Mom and Me this nice little wheel of like 5 different starter decks of different colors for I think like $30.
Oh, okay.
And so it's not a huge investment at the end of the day, but the eventuality is that it's like paying for drugs at a certain point.
Right. You just keep buying them and keep buying them.
And if you want a particular card, it might cost you might cost you $4 or $5 a card, if not.
It's like the whole it's like the whole Pokemon craze. I'm sure this is a lot more intricate, but yeah, I get it.
So, but on behalf of myself and my sister-in-law, we thank you so much for listening to us. And we hope you guys stay safe out there in the meantime, but we'll see you guys again next time.
Bye.